Hey, what's up? This is Jaquan,
And Jasmine.
and we are here for another episode of the Film Spill.
Today, guys, we're going to be talking about the HBO series called The Watchmen, and I'm just going to say the brief summary about it first. The Watchmen takes place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. After a white supremacist attack on the local police department, which only leaves two surviving cops, there are laws passed that allow the cops to hide their identities behind masks. And one of these cops, Angela, adopts the identity of Sister Night and fights racists while dealing with decades-long legacy of the vigilantes.
If you guys aren't familiar with the Watchmen, it was actually a movie that they released back in 2009. This show was released in 2019 on HBOMAX, but the movie was released in 2009, and it definitely has some connection to the movie. Even dating further back than that, the actual graphic novel of The Watchmen was created in the 80s. It was created by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, and it's also an affiliate of DC. I believe DC owns it, or at least owns some rights to it. And it was actually pitched to DC. They wanted to actually kind of like build more on DC characters and stuff, because DC had owned certain IPs, and I guess Alan or Dave, they was actually given the task to basically build off of these characters, and I think he ended up just doing his own thing, because I don't think he was working actually with DC. But that's kind of some of the backstory about the Watchmen, and then how we're currently where we're at right now with it streaming on HBO Max. So let's talk a little bit about our thoughts, our opinions, and even some cool news about the Watchmen. Some things they was able to accomplish. Definitely, it was, being someone who actually watched the movie. I was definitely, I was intrigued by it. I can honestly say, it was kind of slow in the very beginning. I think the last two episodes is what really, really kind of started, it hooked me to want to watch more and more. But those first few episodes, it was definitely kind of slow. I wouldn't say necessarily boring, but what kind of wasn't my cup of tea. And I love, vigilante. I love fights. I love, superhero stuff. So it was just a lot of stuff that was kind of just confusing. And then with like I said, normally we would go watch recaps and stuff about movies, but this was something we just jumped straight in to watch. And with the movie being so far, far away, it was a lot of stuff that I was like, man, and even when I was talking to you, I was like, yo, we should probably go watch this movie. And you was even saying it too, just because there were so many connections to the film that I saw some stuff about, but it was some stuff that, we didn't see. But ultimately, would I watch it again? Probably no, but it was cool for what it was. It was close to be 2 or 3 if every episode was like those last 2 episodes. But I feel like it was like 7 episodes that we watched of that show, maybe 9.
It was 9.
It was 9.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think episode 8 and 9, it was like it started picking up, going crazy and stuff with Dr. Manhattan. So it was definitely cool, but those early episodes, it was confusing. And you were saying that a lot. I know you was just like, and we're gonna get you to do your thoughts, but it was a lot of stuff that you was confused about early on. And I was for the most part, when I watched the film, those first early episodes, I'm really also I love history, especially when it's Black history. So I love how they portrayed Tulsa, or they talked about Tulsa, and then it's crazy to just see the massacres and all the stuff that happened to a bunch of innocent Black people back in that time frame. But I feel like it's important to be able to see those things, see that story, because it's not something that we was taught definitely growing up. I don't think I was taught that at all throughout high school or even middle school or even in college. It wasn't something that I knew too much about, just like Juneteenth. So it was definitely one of those cool things to kind of see them just show that, even though it was a massacre. If you guys have some familiarity with Tulsa, that it was definitely a sad day for America too. And it was just seeing that actual representation. I think it was cool. I really liked it that when we talk about Dr. Manhattan, that was really probably my biggest highlights of it. Just seeing what he was able to do, because it's one of those things we've talked about that too in a lot of shows that we've seen with superheroes. It's like, okay, what is this person weakness? They can literally do too much. He's one of those people, like, I think the term is OP, overpowered. Where it's like he literally, the man can create life, like literally. So just to see that, I think it's still strange that they have him with his private parts out. I think that was weird. I don't know if it was a parody that they end up just sticking with, but that was really, really weird to me. And then I wouldn't recommend watching something like that with your kids, but we live in the age of superheroes and stuff like that. And back in 2009, it was one of those things where when I watched that film, I feel like I was like 16, 15, something like that. But it was gory, Even now, you look at it, what it is now, it's still gory. I would not, just because it's a superhero film, I would not recommend your children watch it. There's a lot of stuff that is, not good for children. But for the most part, I think early on, I one thing that kind of confused me, the Sister Night. I guess one thing that I can say is like, they have so many different characters in the Watchmen, but a lot of them they seem useless. Like, they're not, because really the only person with powers is Dr. Manhattan. Everybody else is kind of just like, I really wasn't understanding, like, okay, their role. And I guess even when they talk about Hooded Justice, right, I feel like his role was just like stepping in that time frame. He was the first hero, but he was like, okay, I have to protect us because nobody is trying to protect people of color. And I thought it was crazy that he had to paint his face. Even though I understood why he did that, but when he painted his face, it was just like,
I was so confused. I didn't know he was trying to look like a white man.
Yeah, I know we talked about that.
Putting the makeup on
because you still have the features of a black person, make it make sense. But and the other things that I was really, really confused a little bit about, I feel like we both probably had some confusions, was with Adrian with the clones. We didn't know what was going on with them at first. It was just like, first is like, you have this butler, you have this this I guess she's a maid. Yeah, a maid, butler and a maid. And then it's like they're calling him master. I'm like, what is going on? Are they like aliens? They're robots? They're androids? They end up being androids. But just their whole standpoint is like the warden, that was really confusing. Like, I guess he put something in place for a challenge for him, but the person was actually trying to like kill him. It was just, that's why I said those first few episodes were kind of confusing. And then when the daughter came into the midst, it just blew it up. But ultimately, I think they had some connections to it. But if you haven't watched, my opinion before you actually watch the series, definitely, look at a recap. If you have to go watch the Watchmen movie, do so. I feel like the Watchmen movie is 100% times better, but it's only because, like I said, I'm really big on, action scenes. They had a lot of action scenes, but I feel like it was more so, it was centered around racism, which I really thought was very important. But I think the hardest part was trying to follow the story when there was so many different things that were, just happening. And then even the standpoints when it was going back in the past, which I know something you don't really care too much about, is like going in the past, going in the present, going in the past, going in the present. And we was kind of just like, what is going on? What happened? Yeah, that was just a weird thing. But for the most part, I feel like as they started to get to the end, I think they started to wrap it up. And I was like, very, very, very much intrigued. I really like how they did Dr. Manhattan, where it was just like, okay, he's so powerful. Literally, his only way to kind of like not use his powers or to kind of like control him was for him to forget his memories. I thought that was dope. So to lead up into like I say, those last two episodes, how they started to portray him, it was like he was inside the shell, really what his body was, having to open that shell, crack it like an egg. Yeah, it was very interesting how they did that. So yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed those last two episodes. The first few, not so much. Yeah, I think Regina King did an amazing job. Other than that, I feel like she did really good per every episode. I don't feel like she had any down or boring parts. I think she did an amazing job with Sister Night. And we also talked about it too, just her trauma that she experienced. But yeah, crazy stuff she experienced. But definitely you guys should check it out. So that's my opinions. I gave it a rating of 2. And the last two episodes were the best. The first few were slow.
I give it a rating of 2 out of 5 as well, because It was, like he said, very confusing. And like he said, it didn't make sense until the last 2 episodes. And I didn't like that. And I don't like stuff jumping back and forth between timelines. It's like a lot of shows do that where they start off with something happens and they work backwards.
Yeah.
And I wish they would start like in the beginning and then work forwards, and it would make so much sense.
And normally too, I know when we watch movies and stuff or films, you would go back and go read it. Like, let me go read what it's about. I don't think you did that with this.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I think I usually do that with movies and not shows. But yeah, it was just really confusing. It started off like with, racism and stuff. And like he said, that was really important when they show like Black history and stuff, because it's stuff that actually happened. And a lot of people like to act like it didn't happen, but it's important to have Black history like that in movies and television shows. So I like how they incorporated that into it, but in the beginning, it just looks like it's going to be about racism. Like, that's just what it looks like it's going to be about. So when they start incorporating superheroes and sci-fi, it gets weird, because I feel like, what is the main thing about this show? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have multiple things, but I just thought it was gonna be about racism, honestly. And so when it's like all these other things happening, they just kept introducing new people like almost every episode, and then it's like their backstories, and it's just like, I feel like we're trailing off, or I feel like, what is it called? Fillers.
Yeah.
So it could have been way shorter if they just got to the point, but when they brought in new people, then they had to tell us their backstory.
And it was always going back in the past. I know you were saying that this show reminded you of Lovecraft.
Yeah, it reminded me of Lovecraft because it was like racist stuff with sci-fi. And I just feel like that's just a weird mix. So that's why I didn't really care for it. And like he said, the last 2 episodes, finally everything comes together. And it's like it didn't have to take that long. But yeah, it was just a lot of weird stuff, like the squid fall, and it was just so much weird stuff. And the dude was controlling it the whole time, and then Looking Glass. It was just a lot going on. And then what was crazy too was when basically the mass vigilantes were treated as criminals.
Yeah, that was weird.
Like, like vigilantes try to help the people, and like they were being put in jail. Like,
it was a task force, right, or something. That's what the lady was.
The lady, she was an FBI agent and a vigilante hunter. So I think that's just it was just so crazy. Like, it was against the law to be a vigilante. Like, they put them in jail. And then there was a trillionaire named Lady True. She came in, and then she had her daughter. Like, it was just a lot. Her daughter, mom, really. I knew something was up with that girl when I seen her. I said, she's just, the way she acts and carries herself, she's acting like an older person. And then once you know about what's going on, I'm like, I bet you that's her mom.
She kept saying like, oh, I'm having some old woman's dreams.
Yep, I knew it. Once she was, I already knew she acted different or more mature. And then I was like, that's her mom, before they even said it. And then it was the elephant when she was hooked up. Yeah. So it was a part when it's like Angela and her grandfather. She's trying to figure out like, who is this man? Blah blah blah. Her chief. Like, she's just figuring out so much information, and she ends up taking his pills, and they're called nostalgia, where it's like all his memories are in pills, and he takes them because he's old and he doesn't want to forget his life. So she took like all of his pills at one time, and she got to see like a firsthand look at her grandfather's life, which was so cool. But she was like experiencing it, like she could feel it and stuff. But she basically almost like overdosed on it, so they had to like help her, and she was hooked up to an elephant. And we were like, what in the world? I think that was her grandfather. I don't know.
Yeah, you was like, I feel like that was her grandfather, because that's what the lady True was trying to say, like, oh, let him sleep. Yeah. Such and such.
She's like, don't go in there. Don't go in that room. So she went in there. It was an elephant.
It was an elephant, and they never explained it. Like, they never physically explained, oh yeah, that's actually your grandfather. He's, even when afterwards, cause she ended up getting caught by Lady True. They spoke. Yeah. She didn't even. That would have been my first thought. Yeah. Where's my grand? Why there's an elephant in this room? Is that my grand? Like, they literally just brushed over that and just started talking about, oh, Dr. Manhattan is actually in Tulsa, and we know where he's at, and blah blah blah. Yeah,
and
it's
you knew it was Cal,
Yeah,
right?
Cal. Yeah,
I was confused.
yeah. I was like, it's him.
I was confused. I'm like, Cal? Why would it be him? But until they said the whole part about, then they started taking us through the whole thing when he was just saying that's the only way. Because, like, their relationship was crazy because he knew everything that was going to happen.
Yes, he literally knew every. He was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, we're about to get into a fight. He's like, no, we're not. I'm going to make sure we're not going to get into a fight. And then they just started talking. He's like, here, it's happening.
Yeah, and
so,
then they get, and that was you
was
like that though.
It was just funny because how do you know what I'm saying?
How do you even?
She didn't like that after a while. He knew every single thing that was going to happen in their relationship. He knew it, like when he first met her. He knew they was gonna be together, but it was gonna end tragically and stuff. She was like, "So why would you want to get with me and stuff?" With me,
like it's gonna end tragically.
It was just crazy. And then he did the thing and changed into his body, and so I never suspected Cal at all. Like I never thought that, and it was just a lot. Like people thought he was on somebody's moon, Jupiter's moon.
On Mars.
Who was on Jupiter's moon? No. What's that, Adrian? Or who was on the moon?
Oh, Adrian. That's what they was at when he built that civilization.
So everybody thought he was on Mars.
Yeah.
Basically, and they was calling him and stuff.
Yeah, they was calling. It was like some
stuff. It was just weird,
call.
but he was really just
walking around Tulsa. Yeah.
So.
In a body.
Yeah, it was just
people was trying to steal his body.
Yeah, it was weird.
And
the 7th Cavalry.
Yeah.
People.
That was weird too. I think it's one thing too that I feel like I disliked was they made it seem like, oh, this person is so overpowered, but I think he got killed at the end.
Yeah, they used, was it batteries or something?
Yeah, like lithium batteries.
They got a bunch of batteries from old watches or something, and then they basically melted them down together to form like a cage, basically to make him like a prison inside, because that was like his one weakness or something. He couldn't like escape that or something.
Yeah, but it almost seemed like he took it like.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even about to fight this.
Yeah.
Like I'm.
Like
which is,
he succumbed to it. Like,
yeah,
like it's
whatever.
Okay. Which was so sad, that part, because she was like, no, I'm going to save you. Because he was like, it's not going to end well. She's like, I'm going to save you. Like he knows what's going to happen, and she's still like, no, I'm going to try. He's like, this is the moment I fell in love with you or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And that was so sad because she was like, I'm going to try to save you. I don't care. Type situation.
He was like, I'm here, I'm everywhere, and I'm nowhere. Like, he was literally in...
Yes, like, that was so weird. Like, he's like, I experienced time differently. And so, every moment, he was in every moment with her at the same time.
Yeah, like, I'm in the future with you right now. Like, or I'm in the past with you right now. Yeah, and he like, know what's happening.
When he first met her, he's, like, simultaneously everywhere at the same time. Yeah.
And I think it was crazy when it was like... Oh, are you with my grandfather right now? Like, yeah, like, oh, ask him, do he know such and such? Yeah. He's like, huh? Oh my, Nash was just like, I was the person who created this, and why my grandfather came to Tulsa, and why he, he thought the judge, the sheriff was actually, a part of Cyclops, which is another thing that was just like, just weird.
That was different, that she could actually say, hey, tell my grandfather something, because it's different when he says, I'm in all these places at the same time, but it's different that you can talk to people in the different places at the same time.
If you're around them. That was interesting.
Yeah, it was cool. But like I said, I gave it 2 out of 5 because it was just too all over the place. It was just too much going on. Too many people, like he said, didn't really make sense. They weren't needed or whatever. But yeah, that's what I give it. But I do want to say that the series received several awards, including 26 Primetime Emmy Award nominations and 11 wins. So that was very surprising to me because, I mean, my personal preference, I just didn't care for it that much, but it got canceled, right?
Well, I don't think they necessarily canceled it. I just don't think that they ever had plans to do a season 2.
Because I heard one of the cast members talking on Breakfast Club, and they said they were told that it was going to do another season, and then the next day they told them it was canceled. And then after that, they found out they won all those, or they had all those nominations. So they was blindsided or something because they were told they were doing another season or something. I think that's what I heard. But yeah, I didn't really care.
Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't probably watch it again. It was just kind of just something that, I see the Watchmen. I know I watched the movie, and I'm like, oh, let's watch this. You know, I feel like it was on our list for a long time. So yeah, we was able to get it scratched off. Now we're on to the next. So, you guys, that's our opinions, our thoughts. This is our conversation on the Watchmen. You guys can definitely go check it out. If you want to, like I said, I would definitely say look at the film first because you're going to be confused just watching it. It's a lot going on. And like I said, do not watch this around children. It's not appropriate. And yeah, so you guys, this is going to be the end of our conversation. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And make sure you guys like, share, subscribe.